let's talk about Classically Abby real quick. Because Classically Abby is of the opinion that, well, it's time for the culture war to take its next step. Conservative women, it's your time to argue in favor of the status quo, I guess? Let's find out.
Social media, celebrities, influencers, and YouTubers. So much of the time, it feels like one worldview.
That face, though. That is a good face pause. We need this face pause. This is perfection right here. This is the peak. It cannot get better than that. It will never get better than this pause right here. But does it really feel like it's all one worldview? Really? Really? Because I can tell you right now, just from being a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, that's bullshit. Just from being a fan of something like Pokemon, this whole one worldview thing is absolute bullshit. Go ahead. Let's figure out worldviews. Everybody here? If you're a Gen 1er, give me a 1. Gen 2, give me a 2. If you think Gen 3 was the best one, give me a 3. Go ahead. Let's get those singular opinions out. Cuz everybody thinks the same. And it is pointed out that that one worldview is quite literally impossible, because getting that kind of consistency amongst multiple people is just not going to happen. We've got some Gen 5, some Gen 3, some Gen 1, some Gen 4. We have 3, 4, and 5. It's difficult because there's so many in multiple games. We've got G-Ring being wrong, and sorry, Beast Wars was not the best era. I'm going to be very, very controversial here. The best era of Transformers was not Beast Wars, it was actually Armada. Somebody is going to hate me for that opinion. Somebody is going to be incredibly angry at me for that.
One position is tolerated.
Yeah, and for you, it's probably only missionary. Because let's be honest, conservative sex is probably incredibly boring.
Many of them don't say outright what their politics are. Many of them do. None of them need to. And none of them will say what I'm about to.
Will they, though? Will they?
I'm a conservative influencer.
She's so brave. Nobody will ever say that they're a conservative influencer. Nobody. No one. No one will say they're conservative. Right? Isn't that right, Dennis Prager? Ben Shapiro? Isn't that right? All of them? I mean, Dave Rubin won't, but, we know. Isn't that right? No bullshit? Isn't that right? Jordan Peterson? Isn't that right? It could go on. It'd be very boring if I just went through a list of names of people who will say that. But, isn't that right? Paul and Morgan? Isn't that right? Caitlyn Shit McPants Bennett? Isn't that right? All of them? But,
Being a conservative woman in today's day and age is not easy. You'll
It's all... Yes, the fuck it is.
be told that you have internalized misogyny. You'll be told that you don't care about other women's well-being.
Well, it has been evidenced by the things that you say, Classically Abby, that you don't. So they're not inaccurate.
You'll be told that you aren't a real woman, but none of that is true. Conservative women are the backbone of American society.
Citation needed.
We prioritize marriage and children, support our husbands, and support ourselves.
Are you saying that liberal and leftist women don't support their children? That they don't support themselves either? Are, are you saying that none of them have prioritized... Are you saying that all conservative women prioritized marriage? Is that what you're saying? Not to mention, if you prioritized marriage, wouldn't that make it harder to support yourself because you're not prioritizing a career? I think Shallow Shy has it right in the super chat. The martyr syndrome is strong.
We teach our families the strength of women both inside the home and out. We help our husbands grow, not by obeying their every word, but by bolstering their strengths and tamping down their weaknesses.
You're just describing being a stable partner, which is not... That's not just a conservative thing, Abby. You're doing this thing where you take positive traits and then you just ad hoc shove them onto an ideology that you agree with. This is a thing where you get, like, people who go, no true gamer would be a misogynist. Yeah, the fuck they would. There are true gamers who are misogynist, and there are true gamers who are egalitarian. There are true gamers who are a lot of whatever the fuck you want to shove into this, because conservative, much like the word gamer, just tells you a little bit about that person, or it tells you something very vague about that person. You can be an egalitarian, at least in principle, maybe not necessarily in practice, and be conservative. Just like you can be a misogynist and be conservative. You can be a leftist and be a misogynist. You can. It's completely... It's not outside the realm of possibility. You're taking positive traits and then arguing that these things are conservatism. No, the fuck they're not, Abby!
We live with values that encourage people to be better. We fight for what's right, even when the world tells us that everyone should do what they want.
So, you fight for what's right, but much like with many conservative platitudes, you fail to define what is right. You fail to even provide an axiom that we can work from that allows us to choose your definition of right as correct. But, you know, philosophical rigor and all that dumb shit.
Regardless of consequences. We stand hand in hand with men, not against them.
And that was a knock at feminists. Even though there are plenty of feminists, most of the ones I have talked to, that stand hand in hand with men as well. Again, this is just taking things you think are bad and shoving them on your opponents, and things you think are good and saying they must be yours.
And we shouldn't have to remain silent about our views, like I did, for years.
You never had to remain silent about your views. Your brother is literally Ben Shapiro. You've been able to be loud about being a conservative as long as you fucking wanted. Don't even lie to us, Abby.
You've been forgotten and left behind, as magazines and movies decided you're outdated. You've been told that the best way to be a woman is to act more like a man.
No. Usually, feminists have argued that the best way to be a woman is to not take classical ideas of womanhood at anything other than face value. For some people, being the best woman they can be might manifest as being the housewife. For some people, being the best woman they can be might manifest as being an MMA fighter. For some people, being the best woman they can be might manifest as being the local nerd at the card shop that happens to have 3 blue eyes, white dragons. And if you come in with a 4th one, they will rip it up. Yes, we are talking about Femme Seto Kaiba right now. But in any of these cases, in any of these scenarios, the acceptance is that what makes you a real woman is very fluid. Not that what makes you a real woman and what makes you a real man are these concrete positions, and for you to be a better woman, you have to be a man. That is a massive straw man, Abby. That is a massive straw man.
You've been told that you don't care about women because you care about a child in her womb.
Ah! But Abby, you necessarily don't care about the woman when you argue that the autonomy of that child is more important, when that child can't even make a decision, than the autonomy of the woman. It is an entailment. It is what we would call a logical consequence of that position. The pro-life position, insofar as it is not an internal one, insofar as it is a political position where you argue that it is a normative position, a position that everyone should have to follow, that position is, by its nature, against women. Because it argues against their own bodily autonomy and their own ability to determine their bodily integrity. It is a logical consequence of that when you put the life of the unborn above the life of the mother who exists in the here and now, or the potential mother who exists in the here and now. That's a logical consequence of that. You can play the word games here, and you can play semantics, but we can also break this down with math.
You've been told that sleeping around is empowering, but waiting till marriage is ridiculous.
Can I break that one down for you, Abby? Like with all these other ones, please? Okay. Sleeping around, by saying it that way, you've already put this into a categorically smearing area. You've argued, by saying sleeping around, that this is a derogatory thing, as opposed to saying something like freely choosing who you have sex with, or freely choosing who you give your body to. By using a term that most people already categorically associate with sluttiness, as an example, you get to say that this is a derogatory thing, and then put waiting for marriage as the positive thing. I don't know how many times I've gone into this conversation. If you feel like you need to wait for marriage, then go right the fuck ahead. Nobody cares except maybe your potential partner. Nobody cares. Nobody. What people do tend to care about is whether or not you've been sleeping around. But nobody should care about that one either. If you are single and you are doing something with another consenting adult, and you consent, that's it. That's as far as anybody should give a shit. It is empowering to have that ability without being looked on in society as lesser, as a slut. People like you, Abby, would rather shame those people. And the evidence is probably in how you're presenting this video. But nobody is saying that you can't be that classical conservative housewife. Just like with abortion, nobody's saying you should have an abortion. What people are doing is saying you should have the option. You should have the option to be that conservative housewife if you so choose. You should have the option to abort if you so choose. And for some people, it won't be right for them. But that's okay. It's having those options that are available for people. Having the option to not fit into what you consider the mold of womanhood is what is more important to people, and should be more important to people. Because fuck molds. They're only good for creating plastic toys.
You've been told that believing in God is passé. You've been silenced about your views. But
nobody fucking silenced you, Abby. Nobody silenced you. Your victim complex is quite strong right now.
Not anymore. Let's take back the culture so women can be women. Let's talk
women
about
still can be
your
women,
femininity.
Abby.
Let's talk about dating with purpose. Let's talk about finding balance in career and home life. Let's talk about being an awesome, loving wife, but also being the kind of wife who makes your husband a better man. Let's talk about how to dress
Would it be better just to make your partner a better person? Maybe I'm just being pedantic here.
fashionably and conservatively. Let's talk
Why? Oh, wait. Again, this goes back to my point about being able to have the choice.
your husband a better man. Let's talk about how to dress fashionably and conservatively.
I'm going to go and say this right now. I actually don't think that's much of a good look. I don't. I don't know why. Something about that look doesn't look right to me. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the jacket needs to be longer or if it needs to be shorter I don't know if it is the matching colors. Something about that looks off to me. I don't know. But that's besides the point. That's besides the point. That's just a thing that popped into my mind there that looks awkward to me. When you do this thing where you argue that like dressing conservatively is the good thing, it necessarily follows that dressing what you don't consider to be conservative on the other end would be the bad thing. Again, the feminist way of looking at this is that you should be allowed to dress as you want. If you want to dress conservatively, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Go put on that extra jacket. Go cover up your breasts. Go do whatever. Fine. Who cares? But if you want to dress in a V-neck, exposing bits of your body that you are confident in, go right ahead and do that too. That would be a feminist lens of looking through that. Arguing that one is necessarily better than the other? I'm just going to go ahead and say that's just being a snob.
Let's talk about how to do your makeup for a night at the opera, not a night at the club.
Again, this looking at things that you have decided are good and then allying them with conservatism, and then everything else necessarily being bad. This is the same thing. Let's talk about doing your makeup for a night at the opera instead of a night at the club. Okay. And there are just as many people who have been fulfilled by going to a club and having parties and having those lives and spending time there, or even spending time there doing that for 5 or 6 years and then getting to a point where they don't want to do that anymore and just reminiscing on that, as there are people who get fulfilled at the opera. At the opera, you're probably not going to meet new people in the same way as you would at the club. And the people you're going to meet there are also going to be different. Not everybody is like you, and not everybody has to be. If going to the opera is what makes you happy, go right ahead. But if going to the club doesn't make you happy, then don't. Don't shame people who want to do that.
Let's talk about life from a conservative perspective, and let's not be afraid to do it.
You shouldn't be afraid to do it in the first place, Abby. You're not the victim here. You're not a victim, Abby.
Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel and blog if you haven't already. Hit that notification.
Okay, I don't need to play her shill part at the end. Abby, you haven't had to be quiet. Your brother is one of the most listened to fucking people on the planet when it comes to conservatism. Okay? He's a household name in almost every fucking political conversation that exists. I don't think you've grown up in an environment where you've had to be silent about this. I don't believe that. I don't think that's the case, Abby. This is, again, another instance of Abby playing victim card. I've had to be silenced. I've had to be upset. I should be allowed to talk about my values without feeling belittled. You can. You can. But then you talk about conservative values while being derogatory about liberal ones. You're either not understanding that you're becoming the thing you hate, or you do understand that, and it makes better sense for your brand to sweep that under the rug. But, you know, that's classically Abby, being the victim, because she wants to be a conservative influencer, and the only reason that most people even know who she is, aside from the affiliation with her brother Ben, is because of the massive amounts of money that were pumped into her channel for advertisements. At the end of the day, Abby, I don't think you're actually being silenced. I don't. I don't see any real evidence of that. But what do you think in the comments section? And, you know, maybe hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. That'd be a cool thing to do. Just maybe. And the bell. That would be neat too.